First off, we have what is most likely at two. Um, I have no idea at this point, but personally, I think it's going to be an edge player. I guess that's the easiest guess because there's two players that we could take at that position. Um, I don't think we're going to take Kyle Hamilton though. I'm not saying this just because of the Deshaun Elliott signing. I'm saying this because before that signing, I thought we weren't taking him, and now we signed a safety, so it's kind of like okay, we might go safety a little bit later, but I doubt it at number two. Um, but I just feel like with the number two overall selection, if you're going to take a player um specifically out of position, well, not out of position, but at a position like safety, he's got to be elite of the elite. And I do love
Yeah.
Kyle Hamilton, but his athleticism isn't, on that elite tier for me. And there are some other issues outside of that too that aren't huge, but there's just things that are like, okay, if we traded down, I would take him, outside the top five probably. And I know it's kind of being picky or whatever with positions, but at the same time, you want to get the value for a team, specifically like the Lions, where we have holes everywhere. You don't want to reach on a player just because, you know,
Yeah.
kind of want to go best player available at positions that can help your team out early. Um,
So like the only I would 100% understand it if Aiden Hutchinson was there
yeah,
at two. The only qualm that I have with the Lions selecting a pass rusher at two is I don't think Thibodeau or Walker deserved to
yeah.
be selected at two. I
I don't
think both
necessarily
of them,
disagree.
I think both of them show a lot of potential,
Mhm.
but one of them doesn't have pass rushing moves. That's Walker. And the other one doesn't give it his all 100% of the game,
We'll see.
which
And
is
honestly,
Thibodeau.
which we'll talk about this a lot and more in depth later at the end of this
Yeah.
podcast. But for me, the real difference is Trevon Walker, like you said, doesn't have the pass rush moves that you'd like out of a guy at two. But it's not really the effort thing for me for Kayvon. I'm just really worried about how well he can stop the run, because if you can't stop the run in college, chances are you're not going to be able to do it in the NFL.
Yeah.
So I have some qualms with that, and that's really my biggest issue. There is some effort issues, of course, but that to me is bigger than the effort
But
on that
to
end.
me, I know that Lions fans will hate this, and I get it. But to me, after Aiden, tackles are the best players available.
I don't disagree, but I just can't take a tackle right now with the team that we have. I mean, Taylor Decker, we can't get rid of him for 2 more years because of the extension we signed and all the money that we gave him. Um, and I feel like we have, our bookends at tackle. All we need now is a right guard, and I'm not taking one in the first 50 picks with the team we have right now. I just think we have more needs.
And then, like, after you go tackle, I would probably say Sauce Gardner.
Yeah, I don't hate that because I do love Sauce. But for me, corner again isn't a huge need for us, and I don't want to reach, um, or necessarily take a position that isn't positionally valued as high. Whereas if we did trade down, I would love a Sauce Gardner or Kyle Hamilton. Um,
Right.
I mean, honestly,
Um,
the number one thing right now is a trade down. That's what we all want as Lions fans, because even if we don't get a Trevon Walker or Kayvon Thibodeau, there's still guys that you could get later, like a George Karlaftis. Or there, I mean, there's a lot of good pass rushers in this
yeah,
draft class, so it's kind of ridiculous how many you could get later on in the
right.
first.
So, I mean, that's just like the worries I have is that because the positional value and the positional need for defensive ends is so
Mm-hmm.
high for the Lions, I think that they might regret their
Mm-hmm.
pick if they pick a Thibodeau or a Walker
Yeah,
over some of these better best player available types.
right. I feel like the edges have a little bit more bust potential, than the
Oh yeah,
other
for sure.
positions, especially at such a high pick. But the thing is, the positional value is what's tough, because it's almost like you're reaching on a player because of positional value now. But I don't know. It's just hard. You really want to trade down. And honestly, at
Right.
this point, I would not be surprised if we took Malik Willis. I just wouldn't. There, we could go
No, for
any way
sure.
right now.
That's another guy that I was thinking that like I would as a Lions fan, I would be more happy with Malik Willis than I would be with Walker Thibodeau.
Yeah.
Just because I know that my future's in that guy, rather than like if Thibodeau or uh, Walker bust, it's just another Jeff Okuda, and it's
Yeah.
just like another year or two behind of what was expected. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see if the Lions at two, knowing that they are probably a ways away from competing and a ways away from actually building a competitive roster, is going to target a positioner need, which is defensive lineman or best player available, which I think is one of the offensive tacklers.
Yeah. I mean, it's really tough.
Yeah.
It's just such a tough draft too, because on top of everything you just said, there's not very much like, I mean, the talent isn't that there's not top talent. It's very
Yeah.
deep in other positions. So it's tough to be like, oh, we have the number 2 pick. This is a terrible draft to have that pick in. I'm just being honest.
Oh yeah, for
You know what I
sure.
mean? It's really tough, which sucks because of course that happens, to the Lions when they have such a good pick. We don't have the top end talent.